Judges chapter 8. The men of Ephraim said to him, "Why have you treated us this way, that you didn't call us when you went to fight with Midian?" They rebuked him sharply. They said to him, "What have I now done in comparison with you? Isn't the gleaning of the grapes of Ephraim better than the vintage of Abiezer? God has delivered into your hand the princes of Midian, Oreb, and Zeeb. What was I able to do in comparison with you?" Then their anger was abated toward him when he had said that. Gideon came to the Jordan and passed over, he and the 300 men who were with him, faint, yet pursuing. He said to the men of Succoth, "Please, give loaves of bread to the people who follow me, for they are faint. And I am pursuing after Zebah and Zalmunna, the kings of Midian." The princes of Succoth said, "Are the hands of Zebah and Zalmunna now in your hand, that we should give bread to your army?" Gideon said, "Therefore, when Yahweh has delivered Zebah and Zalmunna into my hand, then I will tear your flesh with the thorns of the wilderness and with briars." He went up there to Penuel and spoke to them in the same way, and the men of Penuel answered him as the men of Succoth had answered. He spoke also to the men of Penuel, saying, "When I come again in peace, I will break down this tower." Now Zebah and Zalmunna were in Karkor, and their armies with them, about 15,000 men, all who were left of all the army of the children of the east, for there fell 120,000 men who drew sword. Gideon went up by the way of those who lived in tents on the east of Nobah and Jogbehah, and struck the army, for the army was secure. Zebah and Zalmunna fled, and he pursued after them. And he took the 2 kings of Midian, Zebah and Zalmunna, and confused all the army. Gideon the son of Joash returned from the battle from the ascent of Heres. He caught a young man of the men of Succoth, and inquired of him. And he described for him the princes of Succoth and its elders, 70 men. He came to the men of Succoth and said, "See Zebah and Zalmunna, concerning whom you taunted me, saying, 'Are the hands of Zebah and Zalmunna now in your hand, that we should give bread to your men who are weary?'" He took the elders of the city and thorns of the wilderness and briars, and with them he caught the men of Succoth. He broke down the tower of Penuel and killed the men of the city. Then he said to Zebah and Zalmunna, "What kind of men were they, whom you killed at Tabor?" They answered, "They were like you, each one resembled the children of a king." He said, "They were my brothers, the sons of my mother. As Yahweh lives, if you had saved them alive, I would not kill you." He said to Jether, his firstborn, "Get up and kill them." But the youth didn't draw his sword, for he was afraid, because he was yet a youth. Then Zebah and Zalmunna said, "Rise and fall on us, for as the man is, so is the strength." Gideon arose and killed Zebah and Zalmunna, and took the crescents that were on their camels' necks. Then the men of Israel said to Gideon, "Rule over us, both you and your son's son also, for you have saved us out of the hand of Midian." Gideon said to them, "I will not rule over you, neither shall my son rule over you. Yahweh shall rule over you." Gideon said to them, "I would make a request of you, that you would give me every man the earrings of his spoil." For they had golden earrings, because they were Ishmaelites. They answered, "We will willingly give them." They spread a garment, and every man threw the earrings of his spoil into it. The weight of the golden earrings that he requested was 1,700 shekels of gold, besides the crescents and the pendants and the purple clothing that was on the kings of Midian, and besides the chains that were about the camels' necks. Gideon made an ephod of it, and put it in his city, even Ophrah, and all Israel played the prostitute after it there, and it became a snare to Gideon and to his house. So Midian was subdued before the children of Israel, and they lifted up their heads no more. The land had rest 40 years in the days of Gideon. Jerubbaal, the son of Joash, went and lived in his own house. Gideon had 70 sons conceived from his body, for he had many wives. His concubine, who was in Shechem, she also bore him a son, and he was named Abimelech. Gideon, the son of Joash, died in a good old age, and was buried in the tomb of Joash, his father, in Ophrah of the Abiezrites. It happened as soon as Gideon was dead that the children of Israel turned again and played the prostitute after the Baals, and made Baal-berith their god. The children of Israel didn't remember Yahweh their God, who had delivered them out of the hand of all their enemies on every side. Neither did they show kindness to the house of Zerubbabel, who is Gideon, according to all the goodness which he had shown to Israel. Judges chapter 9. Abimelech, the son of Jerubbaal, went to Shechem to his mother's brothers and spoke with them, and with all the family of the house of his mother's father, saying, Please speak in the ears of all the men of Shechem. Is it better for you that all the sons of Jerubbaal, who are 70 persons, rule over you, or that one rule over you? Remember also that I am your bone and your flesh. His mother's brothers spoke of him in the ears of all the men of Shechem, all these words, and their hearts inclined to follow Abimelech. For they said, He is our brother. They gave him 70 pieces of silver out of the house of Baal-berith, with which Abimelech hired vain and light fellows who followed him. He went to his father's house at Ophrah, and killed his brothers, the sons of Jerubbaal, being 70 persons on one stone. But Jotham, the youngest of Jerubbaal, was left, for he hid himself. All the men of Shechem assembled themselves together, and all the house of Millo, and went and made Abimelech king by the oak of the pillar that was in Shechem. When they told it to Jotham, he went and stood on the top of Mount Gerizim, and lifted up his voice and cried, and said to them, Listen to me, you men of Shechem, that God may listen to you. The trees went forth on a time to anoint a king over them. And they said to the olive tree, Reign over us. But the olive tree said to them, Should I leave my fatness, with which by me they honor God and man, and go to wave back and forth over the trees? The trees said to the fig tree, Come and reign over us. But the fig tree said to them, Should I leave my sweetness and my good fruit, and go to wave back and forth over the trees? The trees said to the vine, Come and reign over us. The vine said to them, Should I leave my new wine which cheers God and man, and go to wave back and forth over the trees? Then all the trees said to the bramble, Come and reign over us. The bramble said to the trees, If in truth you anoint me king over you, then come and take refuge in my shade. And if not, let fire come out of the bramble and devour the cedars of Lebanon. Now therefore, if you have dealt truly and righteously, in that you have made Abimelech king, and if you have dealt with Jerubbaal and his house, and have done to him according to the deserving of his hands, for my father fought for you and risked his life, and delivered you out of the hand of Midian, and you have risen up against my father's house this day, and have slain his sons, 70 persons on one stone, and have made Abimelech, the son of this female servant, king over the men of Shechem, because he is your brother. If you have then dealt truly and righteously with Zerubbabel and with his house this day, then rejoice in Abimelech, and let him also rejoice in you. But if not, let fire come out from Abimelech, and devour the men of Shechem and the house of Millo, and let fire come out from the men of Shechem and from the house of Millo, and devour Abimelech. Jotham ran away and fled and went to Beer, and lived there for fear of Abimelech his brother. Abimelech was prince over Israel 3 years. God sent an evil spirit between Abimelech and the men of Shechem, and the men of Shechem dealt treacherously with Abimelech, that the violence done to the 70 sons of Jerubbaal might come, and that their blood might be laid on Abimelech their brother, who killed them, and on the men of Shechem, who strengthened his hands to kill his brothers. The men of Shechem set an ambush for him on the tops of the mountains, and they robbed all who came along that way by them. And it was told Abimelech. Gaal the son of Ebed came with his brothers and went over to Shechem, and the men of Shechem put their trust in him. They went out into the field and gathered their vineyards and trod the grapes and held festival and went into the house of their God and did eat and drink and cursed Abimelech. Gaal the son of Ebed said, "Who is Abimelech and who is Shechem that we should serve him? Isn't he the son of Jerubbaal and Zebul his officer? Serve the men of Hamor, the father of Shechem. But why should we serve him? Would that his people were under my hand, then I would remove Abimelech." He said to Abimelech, "Increase your army and come out." When Zebul, the ruler of the city, heard the words of Gaal, the son of Ebed, his anger was kindled. He sent messengers to Abimelech craftily, saying, "Behold, Gaal the son of Ebed and his brothers are come to Shechem, and behold, they constrain the city to take part against you. Now therefore, go up by night, you and the people who are with you, and lie in wait in the field. And it shall be that in the morning, as soon as the sun is up, you shall rise early and rush on the city, and behold, when he and the people who are with him come out against you, then may you do to them as you shall find occasion." Abimelech rose up, and all the people who were with him by night, and they laid wait against Shechem in 4 companies. Gaal the son of Ebed went out and stood in the entrance of the gate of the city, and Abimelech rose up, and the people who were with him from the ambush. Then Gaal saw the people and said to Zebul, "Behold, people are coming down from the tops of the mountains." Zebul said to him, "You see the shadow of the mountains as if they were men." Gaal spoke again and said, "Behold, people are coming down by the middle of the land, and one company comes by way of the oak of Meonaim." Then Zebul said to him, "Now where is your mouth that you said, 'Who is Abimelech that we should serve him?' Isn't this the people that you have despised? Please go out now and fight with them." Gaal went out before the men of Shechem and fought with Abimelech. Abimelech chased him, and he fled before him, and many fell wounded, even to the entrance of the gate. Abimelech lived at Arumah, and Zebul drove out Gaal and his brothers that they should not dwell in Shechem. It happened on the next day that the people went out into the field, and they told Abimelech. He took the people and divided them into 3 companies and laid wait in the field. And he looked, and behold, the people came forth out of the city. He rose up against them and struck them. Abimelech and the companies that were with him rushed forward and stood in the entrance of the gate of the city, and the 2 companies rushed on all who were in the field and struck them. Abimelech fought against the city all that day, and he took the city and killed the people who were therein, and he beat down the city and sowed it with salt. Then all the men of the tower of Shechem heard of it. They entered into the stronghold of the house of El-Berith. It was told Abimelech that all the men of the tower of Shechem were gathered together. Abimelech went up to Mount Zalmon, he and all the people who were with him, and Abimelech took an axe in his hand and cut down a bough from the trees and took it up and laid it on his shoulder. And he said to the people who were with him, "What you have seen me do, make haste and do as I have done." All the people likewise each cut down his bough and followed Abimelech, and put them at the base of the stronghold, and set the stronghold on fire on them, so that all the people of the tower of Shechem died also, about 1,000 men and women. Then went Abimelech to Thebez, and camped against Thebez, and took it. But there was a strong tower within the city, and there fled all the men and women, and all they of the city, and shut themselves in, and went up to the roof of the tower. Abimelech came to the tower and fought against it, and drew near to the door of the tower to burn it with fire. A certain woman cast an upper millstone on Abimelech's head and broke his skull. Then he called hastily to the young man, his armor-bearer, and said to him, "Draw your sword and kill me, that men not say of me, 'A woman killed him.'" His young man thrust him through, and he died. When the men of Israel saw Abimelech was dead, they departed every man to his place. Thus God requited the wickedness of Abimelech, which he did to his father in killing his 70 brothers. And all the wickedness of the men of Shechem did God requite on their heads. And on them came the curse of Jotham, the son of Jerubbaal. Judges chapter 10. After Abimelech there arose to save Israel Tola, the son of Puah, the son of Dodo, a man of Issachar, and he lived in Shamir in the hill country of Ephraim. He judged Israel 23 years and died, and was buried in Shamir. After him arose Jair, the Gileadite, and he judged Israel 22 years. He had 30 sons who rode on 30 donkey colts, and they had 30 cities which are called Havoth Jair to this day, which are in the land of Gilead. Jair died and was buried in Kamon. The children of Israel again did that which was evil in the sight of Yahweh, and served the Baals, and the Ashtaroth, and the gods of Syria, and the gods of Sidon, and the gods of Moab, and the gods of the children of Ammon, and the gods of the Philistines, and they forsook Yahweh and didn't serve him. The anger of Yahweh was kindled against Israel, and he sold them into the hand of the Philistines, and into the hand of the children of Ammon. They troubled and oppressed the children of Israel that year. 18 years oppressed they all the children of Israel that were beyond the Jordan in the land of the Amorites, which is in Gilead. The children of Ammon passed over the Jordan to fight also against Judah, and against Benjamin, and against the house of Ephraim, so that Israel was very distressed. The children of Israel cried to Yahweh, saying, "We have sinned against you, even because we have forsaken our God and have served the Baals." Yahweh also said to the children of Israel, "Didn't I save you from the Egyptians, and from the Amorites, from the children of Ammon, and from the Philistines? The Sidonians also, and the Amalekites, and the Maonites did oppress you, and you cried to me, and I saved you out of their hand. Yet you have forsaken me and served other gods. Therefore I will save you no more. Go and cry to the gods which you have chosen. Let them save you in the time of your distress." The children of Israel said to Yahweh, "We have sinned. Do you to us whatever seems good to you, only deliver us, please, this day." They put away the foreign gods from among them and served Yahweh, and his soul was grieved for the misery of Israel. Then the children of Ammon were gathered together and encamped in Gilead. The children of Israel assembled themselves together and encamped in Mizpah. The people, the princes of Gilead, said to one another, "What man is he who will begin to fight against the children of Ammon? He shall be head over all the inhabitants of Gilead." Judges chapter 11. Now Jephthah the Gileadite was a mighty man of valor, and he was the son of a prostitute. And Gilead became the father of Jephthah. Gilead's wife bore him sons, and when his wife's sons grew up, they drove out Jephthah and said to him, "You shall not inherit our father's house, for you are the son of another woman." Then Jephthah fled from his brothers and lived in the land of Tob. And there were gathered vain fellows to Jephthah, and they went out with him. It happened after a while that the children of Ammon made war against Israel. It was so that when the children of Ammon made war against Israel, the elders of Gilead went to get Jephthah out of the land of Tob. And they said to Jephthah, "Come and be our chief, that we may fight with the children of Ammon." Jephthah said to the elders of Gilead, "Don't you hate me and drive me out of my father's house? Why have you come to me now when you are in distress?" The elders of Gilead said to Jephthah, "Therefore we have turned again to you now, that you may go with us and fight with the children of Ammon, and you shall be our head over all the inhabitants of Gilead." Jephthah said to the elders of Gilead, "If you bring me home again to fight with the children of Ammon, and Yahweh deliver them before me, shall I be your head?" The elders of Gilead said to Jephthah, "Yahweh shall be witness between us. Surely according to your word, so will we do." Then Jephthah went with the elders of Gilead, and the people made him head and chief over them. And Jephthah spoke all his words before Yahweh in Mizpah. Jephthah sent messengers to the king of the children of Ammon, saying, "What have you to do with me, that you have come to me to fight against my land?" The king of the children of Ammon answered to the messengers of Jephthah, "Because Israel took away my land when he came up out of Egypt, from the Arnon even to the Jabbok, and to the Jordan. Now therefore restore those lands again peaceably." Jephthah sent messengers again to the king of the children of Ammon, and he said to him, "Thus says Jephthah, Israel didn't take away the land of Moab, nor the land of the children of Ammon. But when they came up from Egypt, and Israel went through the wilderness to the Red Sea, and came to Kadesh, then Israel sent messengers to the king of Edom, saying, Please let me pass through your land. But the king of Edom didn't listen. In the same way, he sent to the king of Moab, but he would not, and Israel stayed in Kadesh. Then they went through the wilderness and went around the land of Edom and the land of Moab, and came by the east side of the land of Moab, and they encamped on the other side of the Arnon. But they didn't come within the border of Moab, for the Arnon was the border of Moab. Israel sent messengers to Sihon, king of the Amorites, the king of Heshbon, and Israel said to him, Please let us pass through your land to my place. But Sihon didn't trust Israel to pass through his border. But Sihon gathered all his people together and encamped at Jahaz, and fought against Israel. Yahweh, the God of Israel, delivered Sihon and all his people into the hand of Israel, and they struck them. So Israel possessed all the land of the Amorites, the inhabitants of that country. They possessed all the border of the Amorites, from the Arnon even to the Jabbok, and from the wilderness even to the Jordan. So now Yahweh, the God of Israel, has dispossessed the Amorites from before his people Israel. And should you possess them? Won't you possess that which Chemosh, your God, gives you to possess? So whoever Yahweh our God has dispossessed from before us, them will we possess. Now, are you anything better than Balak, the son of Zippor, king of Moab? Did he ever strive against Israel, or did he ever fight against them? While Israel lived in Heshbon and its towns, and in Eror and its towns, and in all the cities that are along by the side of the Arnon, 300 years, why didn't you recover them within that time? I therefore have not sinned against you, but you do me wrong to war against me. Yahweh, the judge, be judge this day between the children of Israel and the children of Ammon. However, the king of the children of Ammon didn't listen to the words of Jephthah, which he sent him. Then the Spirit of Yahweh came on Jephthah, and he passed over Gilead and Manasseh, and passed over Mizpeh of Gilead, and from Mizpeh of Gilead he passed over to the children of Ammon. Jephthah vowed a vow to Yahweh, and said, If you will indeed deliver the children of Ammon into my hand, then it shall be that whatever comes forth from across the doors of my house to meet me, when I return in peace from the children of Ammon, it shall be Yahweh's, and I will offer it up for a burnt offering. So Jephthah passed over to the children of Ammon to fight against them, and Yahweh delivered them into his hand. He struck them from Eror until you come to Minnith, even 20 cities, and to Abel-keramim, with a very great slaughter. So the children of Ammon were subdued before the children of Israel. Jephthah came to Mizpah to his house, and behold, his daughter came out to meet him with tambourines and with dances, and she was his only child. Besides her, he had neither son nor daughter. It happened when he saw her that he tore his clothes and said, Alas, my daughter, you have brought me very low, and you are one of those who trouble me, for I have opened my mouth to Yahweh, and I can't go back. She said to him, My father, you have opened your mouth to Yahweh. Do to me according to that which has proceeded out of your mouth, because Yahweh has taken vengeance for you on your enemies, even on the children of Ammon. She said to her father, Let this thing be done for me. Let me alone 2 months, that I may depart and go down on the mountains and bewail my virginity, I and my companions. He said, Go. He sent her away for 2 months, and she departed, she and her companions, and mourned her virginity on the mountains. It happened at the end of 2 months that she returned to her father, who did with her according to his vow, which he had vowed, and she was a virgin. It was a custom in Israel that the daughters of Israel went yearly to celebrate the daughter of Jephthah, the Gileadite, 4 days in a year. Judges chapter 12. The men of Ephraim were gathered together and passed northward, and they said to Jephthah, Why did you pass over to fight against the children of Ammon and didn't call us to go with you? We will burn your house around you with fire." Jephthah said to them, "I and my people were at great strife with the children of Ammon, and when I called you, you didn't save me out of their hand. When I saw that you didn't save me, I put my life in my hand and passed over against the children of Ammon, and Yahweh delivered them into my hand. Why then have you come up to me this day to fight against me?" Then Jephthah gathered together all the men of Gilead and fought with Ephraim. And the men of Gilead struck Ephraim because they said, "You are fugitives of Ephraim, you Gileadites, in the midst of Ephraim and in the midst of Manasseh." The Gileadites took the fords of the Jordan against the Ephraimites. It was so that when any of the fugitives of Ephraim said, "Let me go over," the men of Gilead said to him, "Are you an Ephraimite?" If he said no, then they said to him, "Now say, Shibboleth." And he said, Sibboleth, for he couldn't manage to pronounce it right. Then they laid hold of him and killed him at the fords of the Jordan. At that time 42,000 of Ephraim fell. Jephthah judged Israel 6 years. Then died Jephthah the Gileadite and was buried in one of the cities of Gilead. After him, Ibzan of Bethlehem judged Israel. He had 30 sons and 30 daughters. He sent abroad, and 30 daughters he brought in from abroad for his sons. He judged Israel 7 years. Ibzan died and was buried at Bethlehem. After him, Elon, the Zebulunite, judged Israel, and he judged Israel 10 years. Elon the Zebulunite died and was buried in Aijalon, in the land of Zebulun. After him, Abdon, the son of Hillel, the Pirathonite, judged Israel. He had 40 sons and 30 sons who rode on 70 donkey colts, and he judged Israel 8 years. Abdon, the son of Hillel, the Pirathonite, died and was buried in Pirathon, in the land of Ephraim, in the hill country of the Amalekites. Judges chapter 13. The children of Israel again did that which was evil in the sight of Yahweh, and Yahweh delivered them into the hand of the Philistines 40 years. There was a certain man of Zorah, of the family of the Danites, whose name was Manoah, and his wife was barren and didn't bear. The angel of Yahweh appeared to the woman and said to her, "See now, you are barren and don't bear, but you shall conceive and bear a son. Now therefore, please beware and drink no wine nor strong drink, and don't eat any unclean thing. For behold, you shall conceive and bear a son, and no razor shall come on his head. For the child shall be called a Nazarite to God from the womb. And he shall begin to save Israel out of the hand of the Philistines." Then the woman came and told her husband, saying, "A man of God came to me, and his face was like the face of the angel of God, very awesome. And I didn't ask him where he was from, neither did he tell me his name. But he said to me, 'Behold, you shall conceive and bear a son, and now drink no wine nor strong drink, and eat not any unclean thing. For the child shall be a Nazarite to God from the womb to the day of his death.' Then Manoah entreated Yahweh and said, 'O Lord, please let the man of God whom you did send come again to us and teach us what we shall do to the child who shall be born.' God listened to the voice of Manoah, and the angel of God came again to the woman as she sat in the field. But Manoah, her husband, wasn't with her. The woman made haste and ran and told her husband and said to him, 'Behold, the man has appeared to me who came to me the other day.' Manoah arose and went after his wife and came to the man and said to him, 'Are you the man who spoke to the woman?' He said, 'I am.' Manoah said, 'Now let your words happen. What shall be the ordering of the child, and how shall we do to him?' The angel of Yahweh said to Manoah, 'Of all that I said to the woman, let her beware. She may not eat of anything that comes of the vine, neither let her drink wine nor strong drink, nor eat any unclean thing. All that I commanded her, let her observe.' Manoah said to the angel of Yahweh, "Please, let us detain you that we may make a young goat ready for you." The angel of Yahweh said to Manoah, "Though you detain me, I won't eat of your bread. And if you will prepare a burnt offering, you must offer it to Yahweh." For Manoah didn't know that he was the angel of Yahweh. Manoah said to the angel of Yahweh, "What is your name, that when your words happen we may honor you?" The angel of Yahweh said to him, "Why do you ask about my name, since it is wonderful?" So Manoah took the young goat with the meal offering and offered it on the rock to Yahweh. And the angel did wondrously. And Manoah and his wife looked on. For it happened when the flame went up toward the sky from off the altar, that the angel of Yahweh ascended in the flame of the altar. And Manoah and his wife looked on, and they fell on their faces to the ground. But the angel of Yahweh did no more appear to Manoah or to his wife. Then Manoah knew that he was the angel of Yahweh. Manoah said to his wife, "We shall surely die because we have seen God." But his wife said to him, "If Yahweh were pleased to kill us, he wouldn't have received a burnt offering and a meal offering at our hand. Neither would he have shown us all these things, nor would at this time have told us such things as these." The woman bore a son and named him Samson. And the child grew, and Yahweh blessed him. The Spirit of Yahweh began to move him in Mahane Dan, between Zorah and Eshtaol. Judges 14. Samson went down to Timnah and saw a woman in Timnah of the daughters of the Philistines. He came up and told his father and his mother and said, "I have seen a woman in Timnah of the daughters of the Philistines. Now therefore, get her for me as wife." Then his father and his mother said to him, "Is there never a woman among the daughters of your brothers or among all my people that you go to take a wife of the uncircumcised Philistines?" Samson said to his father, "Get her for me, for she pleases me well." But his father and his mother didn't know that it was of Yahweh, for he sought an occasion against the Philistines. Now at that time the Philistines had rule over Israel. Then went Samson down, and his father and his mother to Timnah, and came to the vineyards of Timnah, and behold, a young lion roared against him. The Spirit of Yahweh came mightily on him, and he tore him as he would have torn a young goat, and he had nothing in his hand, but he didn't tell his father or his mother what he had done. He went down and talked with the woman, and she pleased Samson well. After a while, he returned to take her, and he turned aside to see the carcass of the lion, and behold, there was a swarm of bees in the body of the lion, and honey. He took it into his hands and went on, eating as he went. And he came to his father and mother, and gave to them, and they ate. But he didn't tell them that he had taken the honey out of the body of the lion. His father went down to the woman, and Samson made there a feast, for so used the young men to do. It happened, when they saw him, that they brought 30 companions to be with him. Samson said to them, "Let me tell you a riddle now. If you can declare it to me within the 7 days of the feast, and find it out, then I will give you 30 linen garments and 30 changes of clothing. But if you can't declare it to me, then you shall give me 30 linen garments and 30 changes of clothing." They said to him, "Put forth your riddle, that we may hear it." He said to them, "Out of the eater came forth food. Out of the strong came forth sweetness." They couldn't in 3 days declare the riddle. It happened on the 7th day that they said to Samson's wife, "Entice your husband, that he may declare to us the riddle, lest we burn you and your father's house with fire. Have you called us to impoverish us? Is it not so?" Samson's wife wept before him and said, "You just hate me and don't love me. You have put forth a riddle to the children of my people and haven't told it to me." He said to her, "Behold, I haven't told it my father nor my mother, and shall I tell you?" She wept before him the 7 days while their feast lasted, and it happened on the 7th day that he told her, because she pressed him severely, and she told the riddle to the children of her people. The men of the city said to him on the 7th day before the sun went down, "What is sweeter than honey? What is stronger than a lion?" He said to them, "If you hadn't plowed with my heifer, you wouldn't have found out my riddle." The Spirit of Yahweh came mightily on him, and he went down to Ashkelon and struck 30 men of them, and took their spoil, and gave the changes of clothing to those who declared the riddle. His anger was kindled, and he went up to his father's house. But Samson's wife was given to his companion, whom he had used as his friend.